Now, this is the first full day of a U.S. blockade of Iranian ports. But even as warships patrol the Gulf of Oman and Arabian Sea, some U.S. sanctioned tankers are still managing to sail through the Strait of Hormuz. Let's take you to the Middle East now. The CBC's senior international correspondent, Sasha Petrusik, is tracking developments and joins us live from Jerusalem. So, Sasha, what's the latest on the situation in the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, Andrew, as you say, it's the first full day, and it looks like U.S. forces are consolidating, kind of getting themselves in position. We have one aircraft carrier, the Abraham Lincoln, which is in the Arabian Sea with the destroyers and the group that's around that one. We're seeing an additional aircraft carrier that is making its way actually just about to go into the Indian Ocean. It's down by South Africa. That is the George W. Bush. And so, I mean, the U.S. forces are getting in position. Now, it's still not clear how much of this is really a pressure tactic to get Iran back to the negotiating table and how much of it is a real military operation. But they are in place, and we have heard from U.S. Central Command. They posted saying that more than 10,000 sailors, Marines, and airmen are in the area, along with over a dozen warships and dozens of aircraft. That's currently right now. And during the first 24 hours, it says no ships made it past the U.S. blockade, and 6 merchant vessels complied, meaning they were turned back, and they complied with that. They agreed with it. Now, there's been a little bit of confusion because there have been some ships that have been moving back and forth through the Strait of Hormuz into ports that are not Iranian. This blockade only applies to Iranian ports, and it only applies to that whole coast on the north side of the Strait of Hormuz. The south side, which is all these Arab countries, the Gulf countries like the UAE, like Bahrain, like Kuwait, those ports are not affected, and ships can move in and out. There have been a number of ships which are linked to Iran. They're sanctioned, but they have not been going to Iranian ports. And that's, I think, where the confusion came with. The U.S. allowed those ships to move back and forth. Nevertheless, there has been criticism of what the U.S. is doing, in particular from China. This is what the foreign ministry had to say today about that.
美方加码军事部署，采取定向封锁行动，只会激化矛盾，加剧局势紧张，破坏本就脆弱的停火局面，并进一步冲击海峡通行安全。
Now, one other thing to keep in mind in all of this is that it looks like the U.S. strategy is not to move right up against the Iranian coast, which would expose ships and crew and aircraft to potentially to missiles and to fire from Iran if it chose to do that. So it looks like all these ships are actually staying further out. They're monitoring which merchant vessels are moving in or out or want to move in and out, and potentially could be monitoring them and sort of following them out into the ocean if they wanted to interdict a ship. They haven't done that yet, but if they did, that's how they would do it. That's the same strategy they used with Venezuela a number of months ago when they were tracking tankers and other ships that were, from the U.S. perspective, not supposed to be taking oil out. So that's sort of the what we're seeing on the ground, on the ocean there, even though the U.S. is actually not providing a lot of details beyond what I read a few minutes ago.
Sasha, thank you. That is the CBC's Sasha Petrusik live in Jerusalem.